Hi, this is Joey O'Neill from Sound Systems Incorporated in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. We can be reached at 843-602-5883, and currently we are over at Carolina Forest Parks and Recreation, the Horry County Department of Recreation, the aerobics room or the dance room or the instruction room. And this is a system that we have installed actually quite a few years ago. And there are duplicate systems at the North Myrtle Beach location, and I believe they call it the South Strand down off of Scipio Lane. But the equipment is identical at all three locations, and I just wanted to give you a general overview about how things operate in case questions come up during instructions. I'm going to run through the equipment list first, and then we'll go back and show a few little setup features on it. Right, at this location, actually at all locations, we have two wireless microphones, and they currently have a wireless belt pack and then a headset. Most of the instructors obviously like to use headsets so they can have their hands free. So there are two wireless systems. Each has a belt pack headset. This unit here is the power strip or the power distribution unit, and everything plugs into this one piece. For example, when we come in and open the doors to the facility, all we have to do in general is hit this one power button, and it says main power, and that turns on the amplifier, turns on the CD player, and turns on the wireless microphones. The CD player is generally the unit that is used the most because it allows us to do three things. It allows us to have an auxiliary input because we realize most people use iPads, iPhones, and they come in with the music already programmed on their phone system. And these type of cables that use what they call a 3.5 into it, they will plug into an average person's telephone or an iPad. And then the other cables can plug into the sound system. So this particular piece has an auxiliary input. It also has a tray here that we can push, and it will open, and it will allow us to put an iPod, if we use an iPod, and it will play music through that. Or, and we push that button, and it goes back and locks. Or in, I guess, most situations, we would take a CD, open the unit, and then let the CD go in, and we'll let that load for a minute. So this piece is pretty cool because it allows us to do three different things. Now the output or the volume control for this CD comes down to the mixer amplifier, and this is kind of the guts or the engine of the whole sound system. There are a few things that function, and there are quite a few things that we don't need. For example, let's just talk about this particular mixer. We have it set up for channels for the CD iPod playback. Then this channel right now is open. There's a microphone cable here for headset number 1, which is this unit. And there's a microphone cable for headset number 2, which is this guy, and they're even numbered 1 and 2 along with the labels 1 and 2. Right now this channel is open, this channel is open, this channel is open, and this channel is set up to be an extra iPod CD. And what we've done is we've supplied the facility with an extra cable, so in case we have something go wrong, we could take one of these small patch cables, plug it into the channel, and then take this cable and plug it into our iPhone or our iDevice or anything that has a music source on it. And then now this becomes our volume control. And we use this as a backup system. Alright, going through the mixer, this is the master volume for the whole entire sound system. This black knob over here that says main, we keep it set generally about 0, which is straight up and down 12 o'clock. It's very important that we don't make major adjustments to this section here, which is called the graphic equalizer. And the reason is if we got to a point where we over-exaggerated some of the frequencies or the sliders on the equalizer, then that could actually damage or blow the speakers, and then we wouldn't have any system at all. So it's important to keep this somewhere around the center section, which is where it is now. We've made one adjustment on this particular fader here. And that keeps the system from operating or being distorted or overdriven. This section here, I have purposely pushed this little button here that there's a red dot that says defeat. And the reason I pushed that defeat switch in is this unit has an onboard effects processor. An effects processor means that you could have an echo or a delay on your voice or reverb, and that's something that we wouldn't use in this facility actually because the room is pretty loud and ambient as it is. So I always recommend that we push that defeat switch in, and then that way we don't have any effects on our vocals or any other source. Now, this button right here can be potentially dangerous because if this button were to be pushed in, you probably can't see it in the video, but it says mute CH 1 through 8, which means mutes channels 1 through 8. If this button were to be pushed in, then none of these channels would work in the sound system except this button here. We don't use it in this case, but let's say that there was a small band playing out somewhere and they were using microphones and they wanted to take a break. What they could do is they would push this button in and all those channels would be muted and they could play music while they were on break. We're not using that for in here. So we always have to make sure that this button is out or not pushed in. Another important factor over here is this little button down here. It says Phantom Power 48V, which means 48 volts. It's important that we do not push this button in because if we were using a cable very similar to this one that we were supplying as a backup, this cable might have a little bit of voltage on it, and then once we plug that into our phone or our iPad or any other device, it could possibly short something out. So very important not to push this button in at all. Leave it out and everything should be just fine. Back on the channels that we have here, you see I've loaded a CD into the CD player. And the CD player allows us to do three things, like I said: auxiliary in, iPod dock, and a CD. I just put it in, and there were remote controls for the unit. I'm not sure where they're at, but the menu over here to the side allows us to change the pitch if we would like to increase or decrease the speed of the CD. If you're doing a particular dance of some type that required faster music, you could increase the pitch, which would speed up or slow down the CD. Also allows you to repeat a song if you want to keep working on something over and over, like a dance routine. Or if we want to select the different sources. The different sources would be the CD player, the iPod, or the auxiliary input. So for right now, I'm going to push play on the CD player, and I'm going to come down here, and if we notice, this label says CD iPod play. So I'm going to hit play, and then down on our mixer, I'm going to see a little bit of green light flashing, and that tells me my CD player is playing in channel 1, and I can come down here and turn the volume up to whatever level. So we don't want to hear a lot of that, so I'm going to turn that back down, and then that becomes the volume control for our CD player. I think we're using other type of cables more than any. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop the CD, open it, and just take the CD out. And if I understand it correctly, most people prefer using the auxiliary input cable. So here's what I'm going to do. The facility has these little auxiliary 3.5 cables, and what we do is we plug this in to where it says auxiliary 1, right there, the small jack. And then if I come over here and I push the shift button and the source button at the same time, then my display changes. I don't know if we can see it on the video, but my display changes to auxiliary. All right? Well, I just came in to teach a class, so the other end of this cable I'm going to take and plug into my iPhone because I've got music that I want to listen to on my iPhone. And what I'm going to do is start something here and play some old school because I'm old school. And I'm going to hit play on my unit, and I'm going to come down here and turn up. So now I'm playing this song from my iPad or from my whatever type of music source we're doing, and I have full volume control for it in this channel 1. Alright, I'm going to stop that, and if I wanted to get rid of that, I could just unplug it and then use my phone for other things. Now, very important to remember about this piece here. If I did not have this cable plugged into it, it would not recognize the auxiliary input. I could push the shift and the source button all I wanted to, but until I have this cable actually plugged into the unit, it has a sensing device, and as soon as I plug it in, now I can hit shift and source, and it goes to my auxiliary input. And that allows me to play music, which is what most people are doing. Okay. Now, for these purposes, I'm going to take this back out, and I'm going to grab a wireless microphone here. And these are the belt packs that obviously people have been using, and the headset, which has a microphone on it. The nice thing about these units is that over time they were going to develop a short, and they're going to start cracking and popping just from people moving them around. But the nice thing about these is that they have a replaceable headset. You don't have to buy the whole entire system again. So we can buy a couple of these guys, and this actually attaches, and it has to click when you put it in. We open up the pack, and the facility here uses rechargeable batteries. There's nothing wrong with using rechargeable batteries. Just remember that over time they will not charge back up to the amount of power it takes, so they don't last forever. So we're going to put 2 batteries in the belt pack there, put the cover back on. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to push the button right on top, and I'm going to get me a light here in just a second. And if I notice, I have number 1 flashing. There it is. And now I have number 1 on my receiver. I have a little green light telling me that they're talking to each other. Now, if I look down here, I have headset number 1, and the microphone's already picking me up. So if I were to put this on my head and give instructions, check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I have a volume control for my headset number 1 microphone, because as I'm speaking, this little green light is flashing, telling me that I'm talking in that particular channel. So I can turn the volume up as loud as I would need to while I'm instructing the class. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that can get pretty loud. Currently the volume is set at about maybe 9 o'clock on the clock face, and that appears to be pretty loud. These have goosenecks so that you can move them around and make them more comfortable to be heard, and you can kind of push it away and the sound disappears. So we have 2 wireless units here. I don't know if they use both simultaneously or maybe one and one as a backup, but both operate identical. Now, let's say that you're instructing class and you've got your headset on and you've just quickly say, hey, I need to run out and use the restroom or anything like that. Well, remember this microphone is on once you go outside the door, and it would actually pick up all the way down the hall. So pushing this button again on top of on the transmitter, currently it's green. So if I push that again, that light turns red. Hopefully we can see it in the video. And if the light is red, then that tells me my microphone is muted and I can talk to somebody or do what I'd like, whatever I need to do. And then all I have to do is touch it again, and I'm back to green. Touch it again, it goes red, it's muted. And then when I wish to turn it off, I can just push it and hold it for about 2 seconds, and then the unit shuts off. So that's a brief rundown of the headset microphones. Very important to remember that these cables, a lot of people like to take these cables and just wrap them around the pack, but all that does is really provides a short in the cable, and then they have to buy a replacement piece. So we have a headset microphone with a receiver, another headset microphone with a receiver, the rack mount power supply, the main unit, and how to turn the system on and off, the main playback unit, which consists of an auxiliary input, an iPod dock, and a CD player all in one, and then all of that comes down to the power amplifier, which is the unit down here. And just to recap, that's our master volume. This is a graphic equalizer, which we should not adjust. That is a defeat switch, which we should leave in and show a red light beside it. This is called the mute channel 1 through 8. That should always be out, and particularly the phantom power down here should always be out. One more thing I want to mention. Let me go back to a music source here. One thing that can get us in trouble with a setup like this, these amplifiers have pad switches on the front. A pad switch means that if I had something that was very loud, and like a Zumba class, that I could, that if I push that button, it makes the volume go down quite a bit, and I may not want to do that. So, for example, what I did is I just plugged my phone back into the system, into the auxiliary input. I'm going to hit Shift and Source, and it goes to AUX, which means auxiliary. And now I'm going to come down here and turn my music up. Now that's a pretty good volume for a class. But if someone come in or accidentally hit this white button, these white switches, you see what happens? The level drops to where it's not even being heard. And many times I've come into locations and they've had to turn the volume up so loud to get it that way, But the danger is if this switch were to come back out, let's stop this. Okay, I'm going to stop that music. And you can see how dangerous it would be that if that switch was pushed in, someone would try to make up the difference by turning up the volume. So very important that these white switches stay out. Do not push them in because it cuts the volume so much it would not even be able to be heard during your class. Okay, hopefully that wasn't too confusing and we just went through a general equipment layout. In the room there are 2 speakers on each side of the wall and they just are controlled by this main unit. The nice thing about this is that there are actually 2 amplifiers built into the unit. So over time, should we have a problem with one of the power amplifiers, we can switch over to the other amplifier and be back up and running. But that's easily to do from a service call from us. Okay, any questions for me? I'm Joey O'Neill from Sound Systems Incorporated in Myrtle Beach, and I can be reached at 843-602-5883. Thank you.